Okay, thank you for introduction. My name is Jarek and I will tell you something about Kotlin today. I do a lot of stuff. Recently I became a GDE in Kotlin, but my main area of expertise is Android development. So today we will dive into Kotlin by refactoring Java tests in Spring Framework, but we will start with some context of Android. Okay. On the beginning of my software development journey, Android developers haven't had easy life. We were stuck with Java 6. And that's not because some company told us, oh, you should only target those Java versions. No, Android framework itself has limitations. And in 2016, we could use Java 8 only for about 20% of the whole world mobile market. So we had no streams, no lambdas, no functional interfaces, no good stuff from Java 8. But then in 2017, Google announced that new programming language is coming to Android. And Android developers have fallen in love with Kotlin because now we have streams, we have functional interfaces, and the most important thing, we can mix Kotlin and Java code in one project. So we don't have to rewrite the whole app into the new language, and that's great. And nowadays Kotlin is not just Android. Yeah, it is recommended technology by Google for building Android apps, but it also may be used in Java backend projects. And I will show you Spring project today. It is also available for mobile multi-platform and frontend. There are libraries created by Kotlin creators that allow you to write React or just JavaScript code, write Kotlin code and transpile it to JavaScript. And now, there was a survey conducted by JetBrains. In the last year, what do you use Kotlin for? Developers responded mainly Android development, but the second most popular option was server-side development. It doesn't mean that 52% of developers use Kotlin on backend, but 52% of Kotlin developers use Kotlin on backend also. So how does Kotlin compare to Java? This is just hello world, public class app application with public static void main method. And there is a lot of stuff. We have to declare variable, system out, println, and so on, so on. In Kotlin, there are some differences. Function declaration is just fun. We don't have to specify type for void values. And we pass arguments, we declare arguments in slightly different manner. In the second line, you can see that I didn't write specifically that this hello message is string, because this type was inferred. And we have this println function. Kotlin has a lot of wrappers for Java standard library. And yeah, we don't have to create class for every function. We can have top-level declarations. So maybe you are interested in something more than hello world. I will show you backend app in Java Spring, which returns some JSON with places. We've got this system specification that get/home returns all places, places by ID, and some kind of search. This is Spring controller in Java. We have service get by ID method. This whole controller method accepts some ID and should return some kind of response entity containing our place, street workout place. So we are getting this by ID. This is optional. If optional is empty, we return 404. If we have some kind of value, if we have value, if value is present, we return that value. And if everything else fails, we return internal server error. So now it is time that I will show you the code. This app is deployed on free Heroku, and it is working, I hope. We have JSON with address, location, name, some handler to photo, and so on, so on. We have also some kind of ID. So get by ID. Get by ID, in that case, returns 404. So let's see the code. I am injecting here some kind of data service. It doesn't matter at this moment what kind of data service it is. Assigning in constructor, this is important so we could test this properly. Get all method is just calling service fetch data, and this get by ID is doing this conditional logic. If entity is empty, else return that entity. Okay, so this is Java code, and we have Java test for that. We have that three cases. First one is returning 500. So okay, I am here creating mock with Mockito for this data service, and I am configuring this that on any get by ID invocation, we should throw some kind of exception. Given when places controller get by ID with some ID is called, then we have assertions. This status should be HTTP status 500 internal server error. Let's run this and see if it is passing. Yeah, it passed, but we cannot trust test framework, so let's change to something else just to see if our assertions is working. Okay, we have failing test, expected 404, but was 500. Okay, our assertion is working. The next test is similar. Given data service, when get by ID, then return optional empty. I'm not returning null implicitly, explicitly, but this optional. And the same stuff, controller get by ID, and then assertion not found. And happy path, given service returns that kind of entity, then return optional of entity for that particular ID. Okay, we are calling controller get by ID and doing assertion on response body. Now let's try to refactor this code to Kotlin. And we can do that with IntelliJ tools. Shift Java to Kotlin. We have this option, convert the Java file to Kotlin. Okay, and now magically we have Kotlin code. But it is Kotlin code written in Java style. So we can change that. First of all, in Kotlin, we don't necessarily have to create test method name just as long string. We can create test like that. So this whole test method name would be string. Okay, let's leave this. Kotlin doesn't have concept of checked exceptions. For Java compatibility, we have this throws annotation, but since there is no checked exception in Kotlin, we can omit that. This is just thing for compatibility with Java. Okay, let's check this and make sure this is still running. Okay, it is still running. The next step. As you can see, this Mockito when invocation is in backticks. And why is that? Because when is special keyword in Kotlin. It is used to creating switch statements, some kind of switch statements. So we can use another library for that. It will be still Mockito. Mockito well known in Java world, but it will be Kotlin flavor of Mockito, just called Mockito Kotlin. So here we can create more idiomatic Kotlin mock. Service equals mock of type data service and open lambda on method invocation, get by ID, and do throw exception. And remove this and that. Run this whole thing again. And yeah, it seems like it's working. The next thing, we have our when act section. So this is very similar. Function invocations are here, but we can omit this type. We can specify type explicitly, but we don't have to, because compiler already knows that this controller will be instance of places controller. The same thing is with response. So this type is inferred. And the last thing, assertion. Assertions assert equals, but wait, in Kotlin, we can use more idiomatic stuff. We can use infix function. And what is infix function? Infix function is function accepting, is extension function on some kind of parameter that accepts one parameter. And with this infix modifier, we can create function that would be read like, that would like just English sentence. So the equivalent is this. Status code, extension of the status code should be function argument, and yeah. What would be equivalent for this in Java? We would have to create static method, assertions assert equals, this is public static method, with 2 arguments. And in Kotlin, we can create extension on some kind of property. This is extension on generic property in that case. And this function argument is the second word in this sentence, the third word, sorry. Okay, we have more tests in here. This test is boring, so let's get to the last one, to the test when we are returning some kind of body. Okay, IntelliJ, when we are creating this mock entity, IntelliJ is highlighting that, okay, this property is named address. This location entity is something, this string, place name. this string photo, secondary address, ID, and so on and so on. But these classes are Kotlin data classes, and we can do a lot of useful stuff with them. For example, in Kotlin classes, we can use named arguments on methods and on constructors. I'm clicking option enter here and add names to call arguments. And now we have address equals address, location equals location entity, and so on, so on. It is very useful if you are looking at code, not especially in IDE, in IntelliJ, but when you are browsing pull request on GitHub, Bitbucket, or whatever you are using. Okay, so we have this function, this mock entity declaration here. We have some location. We are passing this to our service, mock data service. We can leave that way. And the last thing, assertion. So we can rewrite this to entity should be response body. Okay. Not in that order. Response body should be entity. I will rename this to given entity. Okay, those are regular tests in JUnit style. We have this test annotation, we are using Mockito with Mockito wrappers, and so on, so on. This code still doesn't look very much different than Java code. We can compare this side by side. On the right, we have Java, on the left, Kotlin. Okay, so maybe this Mockito declaration is more readable. It is more readable for me. I don't know if it is more readable for you. System under test invocations are very similar. In Kotlin, we can omit new keyword. Oh, we even cannot use new keyword. Okay. We omit type of this response entity. Compiler knows what we are doing here. And then at the end, our assertion may become just a sentence. Response status code should be something. Instead of assertions, assert equals something, something. And there is another thing with JUnit, because in JUnit 4, this assert equals method as the first argument accepted actual and then expected, and JUnit 5 switched that. First argument of assert equals method is expected, and the second is actual. So they're mixing that thing. And when you are writing assert equals A to B, you don't know exactly what happened here. But with this notation should be, you just know that output should be given input or given property. Okay, now I can show you another thing in this project. We have distance calculator. This app is about resolving some kind of places in given radius, for example. So I have method in here. I have controller method, search, get in radius. I am accepting radius distance in meters, latitude and longitude. I basically want to have all the places in the radius of 50 meters around the given location. So I am fetching for now all places from that service, doing stream, and I am filtering all places that have distance in meters between location I and location B. And for that, I also have tests. So let's check how they may look like. Okay, first check is for distance over 1 kilometer. So I am creating one location and second location, assigning meters between, and I am using a similar method to should be. I am using should be exactly. This assertion is used for numbers. So let's check that. It's working. Okay. The second thing is it should check distance less than 1 kilometer, so 804 meters. And the third case, distance between A and A point should be exactly 0. And also another check, distance from A to B should be equal to distance from B to A. So I have 3 very similar tests. And what does that mean? It means we can parameterize those tests. In JUnit, you would create some kind of argument provider, or you would pass data from a CSV file, so on, so on. But in Kotlin, with cotest extensions, we can do it in a much quicker way. It should check distance. And I already prepared some kind of test arguments. Those test arguments have our parameters from location and to location and expected distance from them. This test arguments is just my custom data class holding location entity from to and integer with expected distance. In JUnit, you would have to extend some kind of argument interface. Or maybe from assert.j, something. Oh, okay. We have some kind of argument interface in JUnit 5. But with Kotlin, you can just take those arguments. We don't need that type here. Create list of. It is equivalent to Java collections list something of. And just make for each on that test arguments. So test arguments. In Kotlin, we have stream operators on collections. So we don't have to write to stream or something like that. We can, of course, make stream of those and make stream-specific operations, but map, filter, and so on is available on collections, on maps, on lists, and stuff like that. Okay, so I have another extension, test extension here, test arguments for all. And this for all extension is running tests on that collection. So for each of these arguments, in this test argument, we'll have separate test case. Okay. Test argument, distance calculator. I will copy that. Another cool thing. In this lambda, for all, I have test arguments as it parameter. So when I am creating lambda in Kotlin, I have default name. Another cool stuff. I can use destructing declaration. similar to, I think, JavaScript. So if something is data class, like this test argument, I can assign 3 vals to it. I can assign 2 vals. I can assign 1 if I use this notation. So this was from, to, and expected distance. This should be named actual distance. And now we can proceed to our assertion. Actual distance should be exactly expected distance. And let's run this. It should check distance. Okay, so it is fine. But test framework is as good as its error messages. So let's try to make some changes and see how it will fail. We have quite a readable message. 2 elements passed, but expected 3 to pass. The following passed, the following failed. So it is pretty nice. I'm currently using this data tests, this Kotlin specific parameterized test for all my parameterized tests for distance converter, for object mappings, and so on and so on. Another cool thing, because Kotlin can be also used in configuration files. I know that most of Java developers use Maven, but on Android, Gradle is widely used, and Gradle also supports Kotlin. So we can create this plugin block repository, declare project dependencies with Kotlin, and also modify some Gradle tasks. Okay. So we created some tests. We refactored those tests, but it was only unit tests. Unit test for Spring controller. You may wonder how to keep those tests isolated. What does it mean that test is unit test? On the bottom of this pyramid, we have unit tests, which are relatively cheap and have high level of isolation. In the middle, we have integration test, and on the top of this pyramid, end-to-end tests. Kotlin may help you with unit and integration test. If you are using some kind of automated framework in Java for end-to-end tests, you also may use Kotlin because Kotlin is fully compatible with Java. Okay, some words about keeping isolation. Let's suppose we want to test that middle green puzzle. And this is system under test. And it has some direct dependencies, those other color puzzles. And in tests, we shouldn't think about everything else. So to achieve this isolation, when we have our system under test, we create some kinds of test doubles, things that pretend to be the real component. We can achieve this with Mockito, for example. So this controller test will accept mock service and mock database, and if it would have more direct dependencies, we would also mock this or create some kind of test double. And the good pattern for this is using dependency inversion. So instead of creating dependency inside the class, we should aim to pass these dependencies via constructor. In integration test, when we have more components, we are testing some part of our application. So to achieve isolation in this integration test, we can create in-memory database or set up local JSON files with mocked responses. And in end-to-end test, create fake database or just use staging environment. If you're on production environment, it is good practice to have test accounts. So you may wonder, what kind of test should we write? Well, everyone. Every test, all of them. So how Kotlin can help us in testing Java code? We have these fluent assertions, infix assertions, that A should be B. We have useful extensions for parameterized tests. Basically, any parameterized test is like for each stream invocation. And with data classes, we can simply and quickly create data holders. So we have type safety. Can you learn Kotlin via testing? Sure. In the just use process, I have shown you. If you are using IntelliJ or Android Studio, you can use built-in converter. Just type Shift-Shift and look Java to Kotlin. And the good starting point is not rewriting the whole Java app to Kotlin, but rather starting with test refactoring tests or creating new. Those are useful sites that have some high quality Kotlin content. Kotlin docs is quite good, so it is a good place to get you started. If you want to learn testing in Kotlin, check Kotlin testing. And if you want to be up to date with Kotlin and the whole ecosystem, Kotlin Weekly is a weekly newsletter for Kotlin enthusiasts. So if you like Kotlin, just try to introduce some kind of Kotlin code to your code base. Just start with tests and you'll be on a good path. So thank you. And I believe we will have now time for some Q&A.
Okay, so if there are no questions, let's once again warmly thank Jarek for his talk. Thank you. It was very interesting.